Welcome to Upfront. I'm Mary Ruth Snyder, and we are coming to you from Studio B here at Spotlight Studios on Rob Ron Road in Campbell River. I have two very special guests joining me today, and I'm super excited that they are here. To my immediate left is Mr. Jim Brennan, who is the Executive Director for the Campbell River Immigrant Welcome Centre. And then to his left is Mary Catherine, who is the Executive Director of Volunteer Campbell River. Two amazing organizations here in Campbell River and the Comox Valley. And they're here to bring us up to speed on what is going on. So Mary Catherine, let's start with you. Tell us, for those who don't know what Volunteer Campbell River is, why don't you tell us what it is?
Sure, so we're a nonprofit organization. We've been in Campbell River for about 30 years, and our role is really to help the community celebrate volunteerism, to help individual organizations find volunteers that they need to run their programs and services. We work with nonprofit organizations to support their work in running their nonprofit, board management, leadership things. Okay. And we also are now helping the Comox Valley. Their volunteer center closed down there about a year and a half ago, so we've been slowly working to rebuild some volunteer capacity through the Comox Valley Volunteer Connector in the Comox Valley during the last year.
Awesome. Now, Jim, tell us a little bit about the Immigrant Welcome Centre here in Campbell River and the Comox Valley.
Yeah, we're, as you said, we're a regional provider of settlement services, which essentially means that we help newcomers settle in the region. So that could be anything from housing to employment to education. And we try to support them in doing that as collaboratively as possible with organizations like the Volunteer Centre, the Chamber, and other entities. And so we do that throughout the north and the south part of this region. And we do lots of language programs, social connection programs. But generally speaking, we also try and help out the employers as well, because it's not just a one-sided thing that we do. The employers need to be supported through that transition as well.
Oh, okay. Now, let's talk about that a little bit more. So when you talk about settlement services, who, maybe you could identify for us, who is it that's coming to you for help?
Well, last year we saw people from probably about 90 different countries around the world. So an astounding amount of people, yeah. 90? So yeah, so we saw 1,000 people in total, 1,014 I believe, last year. So this is a destination of choice. For many people from around the world. They're from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, some refugees. So yeah, we just help them move in and become part of our communities, to help sustain and grow our communities.
Okay. Language services. So are you teaching English as a second language?
We are. So we have a formalized, nationally recognized language program called LINC, L-I-N-C. So it's language instruction for newcomer Canadians. Yeah, and so what we do is we try to get them to a place where they're employment ready. So yeah, and we do that here right at Rob Ron. And we have an office out of Courtenay that we do that there as well. So it's different than literacy in that respect, because it's employment focused, and it's a formalized assessment and formalized program. Okay.
Now, is that let's talk about your funding model for a minute. So are you supported at all three levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal, or?
Yes, we are. Yeah. So, so our primary contract is a federal contract. So that probably is the biggest part of what we do, and then we provincially, because they're all different eligibilities for different. The province looks after certain segments, as does the federal government, and then municipally, of course, we're all trying to build these communities together. So that's what we do. So we apply for. We don't have consistent funding municipally, but there's lots of wonderful funding that helps support us to collaboratively do the work that we do.
Right. Now, Mary Catherine, let's talk about the Volunteer Centre here. Now, here in Campbell River, it's been established, did you say 30 years ago?
30 years, yep, 30 years this July.
And how many volunteers do you have?
So we serve about 800 volunteers a year who are looking for a volunteer opportunity. Many of them come into our office, and many of them also search online. We have a volunteer matching service online. And then we also have volunteers in programs. So we have a special events volunteer program with over 300 volunteers. We have emergency support volunteers in the event of a large evacuation that have agreed to be called upon. They're not involved in emergency services that is ongoing, but they would agree to be called upon. And there's over 3,000 of those that we have that have identified through our organization. And then we have our own volunteers. We have our board members and others. There are about 30 people that volunteer for us in other ways. So it's a lot of people.
So what does a typical day look like for you at the office?
Yeah. So our office is open Monday to Thursday, and we have some administrative staff, and then my colleague Tisha Schmuland, who's our volunteer and community engagement coordinator. And we also have a youth engagement program happening this year and possibly next year with some federal government funding, and it's an island-wide and Powell River project serving youth from 15 to 30 and engaging with youth around volunteering, around sort of dreaming big and thinking up things that really make a difference for themselves and their community, and our staff can support them to make those things happen. So those staff are in the office when we get there, and we basically have people coming in asking for volunteer opportunities, trying to find out what they're interested in, how they want to make a difference in this community, and we help them through the process of applying, getting criminal record check if required, and then we do training. We have ongoing training for volunteer managers, for nonprofits, and all the things about running an organization that Jim does as well.
What would you say is the main motivating factor for people walking through your door?
It's a really good question. It really is different for everyone. For some people, they're new to the community. They might be new retirees or just younger people that have moved here. So they're trying to sort of get to know people and find a place in the community. Some people need hours for schooling, or they're still not sure what their future holds, or maybe they're making a job change and they want to try out some things. Some people have passion. They just have real passion. A fellow came in yesterday and he just really, really wanted to work with people who were struggling in poverty, and he wanted to work at the food bank and at the soup kitchen. That was a real passion for him. So some people have skills that they want to contribute. So yeah, it really is quite different. We find the younger volunteers that we're getting to know through our youth project, millennials are very interested in their passions. They volunteer a lot, and they volunteer based on their passions, very much so.
Really?
Passions and beliefs.
Yeah, there's a strong engagement for the really qualified. We get a lot of volunteers as well, and very qualified people who are still looking to be engaged in their retirement. And so there's a lot of wonderful resources both in Campbell River and Courtenay both, I find.
Something that shocked me, about half of Canadians volunteer. So about 50% of Canadians volunteer. So if you think of our population of Campbell River or the Comox Valley and take half of that population, a lot of people are volunteering in our communities.
That's shocking to me.
Some of that is formalized. Some of that is, they're in an organization, they're signing up and they're doing that. Some of it's informal. They're helping a neighbor, they're supporting their church in an informal way, not a formal volunteer role at their church or their organization that they care about. So, but half of Canadians volunteer. It's amazing.
That is amazing. Now, with some of the new Canadians that you see coming through your door, are they so overwhelmed with trying to get settled that they're not thinking about the volunteer piece at the beginning, or does that come into early conversations?
It certainly comes into early conversations. I don't think it's culturally part of where they come from oftentimes, so it's something new for them.
Really?
Certainly, yeah. It's not really why would you volunteer your time when you can get paid to do that? And
the other thing is a lot of traditional or other communities around the world, they help each other all the time. They don't call it volunteering. They're always contributing to community, but we have a more formalized system.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So to formally volunteer, we have those conversations early, just as Mary was saying. It was just that that's the way we do things often in smaller communities, is you get to know people, and then they're in terms of employment or being able to show people what you can do is done through volunteering. And so we've hired several people ourselves through that sort of route. And so some of our community partners hired some of the newcomers through volunteering or job shadowing. It's part of what we do, because we do employment as well. We do specialized employment at the Immigrant Welcome Centre with newcomers. So we work with employers and clients from around the world.
And I was just going to say, I think we're one of the stops in the volunteer passports, the newcomer passport. So there's a passport that newcomers can work through the community, going to different stops, and we're one of the stops to get to know how what we offer.
And so the whole idea around the passport was to really we would try to informally make those connections, but really you have to formally do that. So they're meeting newcomers are meeting businesses. Those relationships are formally they're formal but informal too. So you stop in and say, hi, this is Bob, he owns this place, this is what they do. So that passport's been really good, and it's a trial project that we've been piloting, and we do it here in Campbell River, looking to possibly move that into Courtenay. To again, try to make some of those connections, those social connections that become professional connections, and vice versa. Yeah, that's an important one.
When somebody walks through your door, what do you think is the number one question that you hear?
They're really interested in employment. Employment is huge. I think everybody is interested in being engaged in the community and in employment so they can look after their families. We know that engages us in a community in more than just a superficial way. You make professional and personal connections, but employment is probably the biggest thing, and certainly in terms of what the federal and provincial governments see, that's either 1, 2, or 3 in terms of priorities. So, and they're coming from places where they're used to providing, and so that's what we all know, so that's what we go to.
Right. Well, and I believe that the latest statistic from Canada is that there's 500,000 jobs across the country that are posted and unfilled.
Well, the Conference Board of Canada even said in the next decade there's going to be 903,000 jobs available, that we're going to lose about $4.7 billion in GDP if we don't do something about it. So newcomers will obviously play a fairly large role in that.
Now, are the newcomers that are coming, are they both refugee and immigrants?
Yeah, primarily
Because
immigrants.
there are
the 2 streams. That's correct. Yeah, obviously with refugees, they come, and it's managed a little bit differently. But yeah, but there is skilled immigrants that are coming, so those are being recruited by business, because to your point, Mary Ruth, that they can't find enough people to fill those 500,000 or 900,000 positions that are available. So that GDP just goes somewhere else if we don't do something about it.
Could you maybe just, because this is something that I think gets lost in general discussions, because I see it on Facebook and there's so much misinformation out there on social media. Maybe if you could just give a very brief, concise explanation of refugee as opposed to immigrant.
Well, yeah, usually a refugee comes because they end up in Canada because they have to. They are either being persecuted in their country, so they're in danger in their country, so they need to go somewhere else. Yeah, so they're invited to certain countries, and Canada happens to be one of those open countries that is willing to support people internationally to do that. Immigrants typically come as a matter of choice, or they're also recruited through work. But it's more of a choice for them.
Okay. And I just want to add, because we were part of the refugee group here, that some refugees are sponsored by individual groups or organizations, and other refugees are sponsored by government. And so both streams are part of the ways that refugees come to Canada.
Yeah, without getting into too many acronyms, but yeah, there's 2 different streams, and they're handled very differently. The individual one, where the organizations or the 5-person group brings them in, that's a wonderful, and it's probably one of the best models on the planet, honestly, because what it does is what government programs can't do, and that is connect people to local people who introduce them or take responsibility for them, introduce them to their professional networks or social networks, so it increases their success and their timely success exponentially. It's wonderful. Yeah, community, and small communities in particular, take a lot of responsibility for supporting people.
Well,
So
Comox
we're
Valley and
wonderful
Campbell
at it.
River have both stepped up to the plate in the last few years, and many refugees have been settling here with the support of organizations and groups.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to reintroduce who I have with me today. You're watching Up Front. We are coming to you from Studio B at Shaw Spotlight Studios in Campbell River. And Mary Catherine Williams is from the Volunteer Campbell River. She is the Executive Director. And Jim Brennan is from the Campbell River Immigrant Welcome Centre, as well as the Comox Valley. So Mary Catherine, if you could tell us maybe one of the projects you're most looking forward to in the next 12 months.
Sure. So we're involved in a couple projects, and in fact, two of them are at either ends of the spectrum. We're involved in our youth engagement project that I mentioned, and we've got some funding through RBC and the Community Foundation to do a small project called Brighter Day, which will help youth and seniors spend time together, being with each other, connecting, doing some activities, building resilience, improving mental health, improving belonging in their community. So we're really excited about that. It's just getting underway. And the other project that I'm really excited about is something that we're working on with this Campbell River Seniors Network. The network's been together about 2 or 3 years now, and they identified as their first big project to work on to build an information hub for seniors. So it'll be the Campbell River Seniors Information Hub. It'll be a place that seniors, their caregivers, their family members can call or go to find out how to do the next thing. As you age, things come along that you haven't done before or that you need to find out about. And it is a very confusing array of services and systems as we age. And so this will be a place to help people through those stages and help access the knowledge and information that they need to be safe and healthy and comfortable and get the services that they need. So we have a group that is working on the project. We've been meeting monthly for a long time, and it's pretty exciting. Should be up and running next January.
Awesome. Yeah. I love the whole concept of putting youth with seniors.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
before World War II, when everybody lived in a multi-generational home, that was the beautiful thing about it. You had great grandma and grandpa taking care of the wee babes. And then after World War II, when everybody went to single family dwellings, we lost that. And I think it's really done a lot of damage to our whole society because we've lost that. So it's so nice to see that coming back again, at least in that concept.
And I think it's pretty natural. I think if you look at it culturally, that's the way a lot of certainly Asian culture, First Nation culture, there's still very much an engagement between those two. So that's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Well, our youth project lead, so the project needed a youth lead, and it was her design that she thought this project up. And her grandparents live in other communities, so she misses the connection to her grandparents that she has, but not local. And we thought she's not the only one. And I know there are many elderly people whose family don't live close, and so it's a chance, or maybe they're here but they're busy, and so it's a chance to build some of those connections.
Awesome. All right, Jim, next 12 months, favorite project that you're looking forward to?
Well, I think there's a couple, and you're trying to nail me down to one's pretty tough. The Welcoming Communities Coalition is really working hard. Again, let me just explain a little bit about what that is. The Welcoming Communities Coalition is basically led by the Immigrant Welcome Centre, but it really is a facilitated sort of discussion that is, and I'll back up my comment, it's led by the community. So it's led by many organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, the Volunteer Centre, North Island College, NIAFs. So it takes a piece of all of the different aspects of our community to look at what are the gaps that we have as a community or as a region, quite frankly, because it's right down in Courtenay as well. And so
now, is this a federal initiative where it started?
It is a federal initiative, and we got a little bit of funding to run this program to facilitate it, because although it's administrated from us, it really is for the community, by the community. So, and it's really about identifying and taking the time to stop, ask some really good questions, find out where the gaps and what the needs are, and then trying to find a way to collaboratively sort of address those or strategically address those, because maybe that's something that the Chamber and the Immigrant Welcome Centre can work on, or maybe that's something that we can work on, or we choose, and then it makes more sense, and we're really, one thing rural communities are really good at is effectively using resources, because we're used to working together, and I think that's where there's big benefits and advantages in rural communities that we have. But when I talk to some of the sister agencies up and down the island, or even around Canada, it's the rural communities that are really doing a great job of managing some of those resources, and I'm very proud to say that, because we do work well together. Yeah, and we get some great outcomes from that. We get people who feel engaged, who are engaged sooner, so the successes come faster. And I think we all benefit. It's a win-win.
The community's richer for it too.
Oh, for sure.
So what is the end goal of the Welcoming Communities Coalition? Like, where do you hope to be in 12 months?
That's a good question. I think the idea is that we're going to set some priorities. We're going to assess where the gaps are, then assess some priorities, and then try to meet at least one or two of those, whatever those priorities might be. I can't speak to those. That's really for the community to decide. But to really put some action to some of that, we have some dialogue and we do some homework, but then we need to do something. And so that's for the committee that we have with the community members on there to decide.
And we're
that's
well on the way,
exciting.
because I'm on that committee.
Yes,
so we have,
we're both
set
on
our
that committee,
priorities
so
and
thank
we're
you
well
for
on the way.
joining.
Yeah, so we'll be
Thanks to all the other
doing that
people.
work. Yeah, we'll be doing that work in the next few months,
Yep.
really getting down to it.
Yeah, so you asked for one, but you're going to get two. I'm sorry. The other one is the international welcome. We did a pilot last year in terms of trying to find a way to celebrate diversity and what we do well in our communities. And so we joined forces with other community members and had a event last year that was quite successful. And we're going to do it again. We had so much fun, and now we've received some funding from the city to do that, and so we're looking for partnerships, which we have many. And so, yeah, we know a couple of those people already. Yeah, we've already got some people signed up, so we'll be doing that. And we want that to be really an annual event.
When is that going to be?
Well, it's somewhere in October, November.
Okay.
Yeah, but we really want to make that a annual event and a signature event for our communities.
And the Comox Valley has a welcoming.
We've been doing that
community,
down there for about 9 years.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. We've been working with North Island College, SD71 down there, international, to do some of that. And so we liked the idea. I was approached by Mayor Adams. Him and I started that conversation several years back, and he said, "Hey, we got some resources. Let's try and do that together." And we did it last year, and it was really wonderful. And I'm really proud of our communities when we do that and we do it well together.
Will it be in North Island College in the new renovation part?
We haven't really decided where that would be. I think that's again for the committee to decide what that looks like. But yeah.
And since he got two, I'd like one more. Maybe
Oh,
I just want to talk about something that
Yeah.
the three of us talk about at our, we've been getting
Sure.
together and connecting
Yes.
and trying to build, connections. And we've been talking about breaking down those barriers between nonprofit and business.
Yes.
We are all
Absolutely.
building this community, and so I think we're really looking at ways of bringing community, and that's one example, the Welcoming Communities event, ways
Right.
of bringing the business and nonprofit communities together,
Right.
because we're all in the same business.
Yeah,
So.
thanks for
Right.
bringing that up. But yes, and it's good you brought up the second one. I'm happy you did, because that is important. I don't see them as distinct entities. We're all here to build
Right.
community together. I mean,
Yeah.
we may be the executive director for this or the CEO for that, but really I think we're all interested in building welcoming, healthy, effective, and progressive communities. So.
Well, and I think, speaking on behalf of the Chamber, like back in the 1930s, when Chamber of Commerces were first created, they, especially in the smaller communities, they were the intersection point between all three levels of government, between business, between all of the educational facilities, between community groups and the general public. So we were the intersection point between every aspect of a community. And with myself as the new ED and the new board that has been there since October, that is the new era, and that's how we are repositioning ourselves. And we've worked really hard in the last 6 months to navigate those partnerships and get them back into place. And you two have been, it is very. And
You have worked really hard, and it's wonderful. It's a nice
been a lot of fun.
approach, and I think that's the only way we can do this effectively is together. So, thanks for taking that initiative. Yeah.
Well, and it's that integration within community, because if you're off working in your silo and you're working in your silo, nobody is going to realize that there are gazillion ways that your volunteers can help his people that are coming newly settled, and vice versa. So,
And one of the things we're really noticing in our nonprofit volunteer sector is how the corporate sector is engaging in social services and social supports, social initiatives. Their staff are volunteering. They're choosing organizations and entities to get behind and back and support. And so again, if you're doing that in silos, you're missing a lot of opportunity to do that well.
do you think that because there has been a presence on the global stage of non-friendly individuals, that the general population is now pushing back against that and saying, wait a second, I'm taking back my community and I'm going to make a difference?
mean, I don't know if that's the reason. I hope that might be happening. I mean, I do think millennials are leading the way. They are really telling us that they value things, and they will stand up and say that. And they're not the only ones. People in our generation have done that too. So I think people in general care about their community. They care about their fellow neighbor, and I think that everyone's willing to step up and you know, take action to make that work.
I would have to suggest that we have always been that way. I wouldn't say that it's a response to that. I think that I think there's probably a feeling that that's not how we do business. This is the way we've always done business. This is the way we'll continue to do business going forward, and that's collectively and supporting each other, because we know that's how we build community.
It's pretty neat to work in organizations like we do that are so positive. You know, the work we do is positive work.
It is,
we
right?
are building healthy communities, healthy people. Some people may be struggling when they come to see us, or we may be supporting people that are struggling, but the end goal is always to make it a little better.
It's not perfect, but we're certainly working. We can at least collectively identify that there's some issues and that we would like to fix them. Right. That's a good start, great start.
I was talking with somebody yesterday, and they were pointing out that the entire month of March and the entire month of April, there is a community-based event every single weekend of something. Like it, and again, and you just had one in the early March. I mean, there's just so much groundswell of support, and I don't know if it's always been there or if it really is. It feels like everybody's taking it to the next level somehow.
Yeah, I think you're certainly seeing more growth in that. I think in the region, I think that there's been pockets of people that have been working really well together. But I agree. I think you are seeing a bigger sort of ripple effect, if you will, in terms of people wanting to work together more collaboratively and to try and meet some of these unmet needs, for sure. Absolutely. I would agree. Yep.
All right, well, we are coming very close to the end of our segment here. Now, I'm going to give you each a minute. So what do you need at the Immigrant Centre from the general public? What would you like to ask for?
Well, people ask us all the time, how do we support you? And I think, the community has done a great job. I always say that, you're always welcome to join as a member. It's a pretty small membership fee. I think it's $10 or $20 for a family. It's pretty minimal. It gives you sort of an insight into what we're doing. You'll get a newsletter. But I think just continue to do what you're doing. I think people have been very welcoming. If you see somebody, say hi. You can always make a referral to us so we can work with them sooner because that helps. But I think that people just continue what we do and send out the word that we all work together and that we want to, and we're happy to work with people on whatever initiatives. We don't have to do it ourselves necessarily. We'd be happy to join you and support you in whatever you do. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mary Catherine?
Yeah, I mean, I encourage people to get out there and volunteer, to find those opportunities that make sense to them. We have an online matching platform that has some opportunities relevant to the community, but you can also come in and see us. We can make appointments if our hours don't fit. So yeah, take that minute to look online or come in and see us and find out how we can make your life richer.
All right. Well, I would like to thank Jim Brennan from the Campbell River Immigrant Welcome Centre and Mary Catherine Williams from Volunteer Campbell River for joining us today for Upfront. It has been a pleasure, and I know that the audience will be richer for having seen this, and it's a lot of really valuable information. So people, I'm sure, can go to your websites for more information. Yes, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you to everybody out there watching for joining us today for Upfront, coming to you from Studio B at Shaw Spotlight here in Campbell River. We'll see you again.